Welcome back, Goku-san DBZ as always, and this is the start of a special 4-part special countdown list, a new top 100 list. This took some time to put together, but today I am looking at part 1 from number 100 to number 76, looking and counting down my top 100 favorite Nintendo games of all time, including all platforms, all consoles, and handhelds. And I thought for the list, for every part, I will be wearing this N64 shirt. Only proper to wear a Nintendo shirt while doing this. So, with that said, first coming at number 100 was technically just a compilation, but I thought it was a great compilation of true arcade classics that you could play on the original Game Boy Advance. For me, coming at number 100 is Midway Greatest Arcade Hits for the Game Boy Advance. Great collection, only about 3 or 4 games, but they are all-time Midway classics that I think more people should actually give a chance to, as Midway was truly one of the greatest arcade makers in the 80s and 90s, arguably. It is unfortunate in the late 2000s they bit the dust, which sucks. Coming in at 99, released looking at the original version of the game, released on the original Game Boy Advance as well. We would end up seeing, though, a remake for the PS2, but for me, coming at number 99 is the original game, which is actually still quite fun, even on Game Boy Advance. For me, coming at 99 is Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories for the GBA. Like I said, great game. Arguably, I ended up playing the PS2 game more because that was my introduction to the game. It wasn't until years later I would actually play the original version on the GBA. Arguably, it's still, I think, probably one of the best looking Game Boy Advance games, hands down. It definitely plays very differently to be expected, but I think for a handheld, like, action RPG type game, it's quite interesting, and I actually think the card battling mechanic actually makes more sense in the original game than versus the remake for PS2. Coming in at 98, originally released on the original Nintendo, I would end up playing this game predominantly on the NES Classic, as well as in a few other collections here and there. But for me, coming at 98 was the original all-time classic Final Fantasy 1. Though I would end up the version I would end up playing the most would be the PSP remaster, which was technically the PS1 version, but still great game nevertheless. But I can say after playing the original version on specifically the NES Classic, the original Final Fantasy, still you can see where it started everything, really. A lot of the basic things that would become fundamentals for many JRPGs moving forward throughout the years. And it is truly an all-time classic. It deserves the respect that should be given to it. I still think people should give the original Final Fantasy a chance. Coming at number 97, released exclusively for the Nintendo 3DS, is arguably one of, I think, the best collections and unique takes I've seen. Coming at 97 is Sega 30 or Sega 3D Classic Collection for the 3DS, which was basically from the ground up remakes of all-time classic Sega games, but made for 3D environment. Specifically games like Space Harrier, which is an all-time arcade classic, and on the original Sega Master System as well. But seriously, if you get a chance, you can find this very affordable. I consider this a must-have for the 3DS. And if you're all interested, you can also get on the Virtual Console as well. So, might want to look into that before the 3DS digital eShop is closed. Coming in at 96 is another all-time arcade classic. I personally like this game more than the original arcade game. For me, coming at number 96 is Donkey Kong Jr. I always preferred Donkey Kong Jr. over the original Donkey Kong. I guess it's because, like, the original Donkey Kong was never a big part of my childhood and stuff. because I mostly grew up, though, playing stuff the next generation, the 16-bit era. The Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo was my generation, really, growing up wise, console. NES was just a tad, a couple years before my time, really overall. But going back, playing, I will say Donkey Kong Jr. is surprisingly a lot of fun. I picked it up on the Virtual Console a few years back for the 3DS, and I do recommend giving Donkey Kong Jr. a shot. It's pretty good. You can get it dirt cheap. It's like like $4.99 on the Virtual Console. Check it out. Coming in '95, released originally for the Nintendo 64, though you can also pick it up on the Virtual Console on the Wii U right now, while it's still up, so take advantage. Uh, for me, coming in at 9.5 is Pokemon Snap, which is a very interesting game I remember back years ago renting from Blockbuster. It was definitely a very unique and interesting game, though I would also remember N64 like setups and stuff at also like one of the McDonald's that actually had a play place and stuff. Also had a couple N64 setups and stuff, and one of them had Pokemon Snap. And that was a game I would constantly play if I went there or to Blockbuster. But yes, Snap is definitely a game that holds a special place for me personally with nostalgia. Coming in at 94, released exclusively for the GameCube and has never received a re-release or anything, which is unfortunate. I think it's a criminally underrated game and a misunderstood. I think more people should give this game a shot if you have a GameCube or you have an older Wii that's backwards compatible. Pick this up. It's still relatively affordable. For me, coming at number 94 is Geist. Very interesting and unique shooter with horror elements and other stuff with like possession mechanics. I find it very unique, and I feel like Geist played an influence also in a game on the PSP called Third Birthday. Coming in at 93, released exclusively for the Super Nintendo or the SNES Classic. Coming at 93 for me personally is Star Fox 2. Yes, I actually surprisingly enjoyed this game quite a bit. Arguably, though, it's come from somebody who's a pretty big fan of the early Star Fox games. So take that what you will. Coming in at 92 is a game, I think, one of the few games I really went out of my way to get my hands on for the DS. Coming at 92, released exclusively for the DS. You can only watch like the cinematic clips in the HD packages. You can't actually play the game. For me, coming at number 92, released for the Nintendo DS, was Kingdom Hearts Recoded, which was originally technically in Japan a mobile game, but they decided to remaster and add more features and things to it and make it better and released it for the DS. To me, it's probably one of the more interesting games. Of course, I recommend people who have a DS pick this up, or 3DS, as backwards compatible, but this is speaking as a long-time Kingdom Hearts fan, keep in mind. For me, coming in at number 91 is a game I feel is somewhat underrated and overly hated. For me, coming at number 91, released for the original NES. That being Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Yes, I know a lot of Zelda fans hate, but speaking of someone who's been playing Zelda for quite a few years myself, I don't have the same hatred towards Zelda 2. I actually find it very unique and interesting as a side-scroller. Besides, it's not like it's the worst Zelda. Have you never heard of the Zelda games? Like the, the Quest for Gamelon and stuff that was released for the Philips CDI? Yeah, trust me, you'll appreciate Zelda 2 once you see those games. Take my word for that. Coming in at number 90 is released for the SNES. Arguably, of course, I have it on the Classic. I even bought it digitally on the Virtual Console for the 3DS as well as that's the way you want to go. It's digital, as physical is insane. It is the very unique, to say the least, JRPG. For me, coming at number 90 is Earthbound. I'm sure a lot of people have this game much higher. For me, I do appreciate the uniqueness of the game, but to me, I feel it's kind of overrated personally, though I still appreciate it. Being, though, a long time JRPG fan is the main reason. Though I have always been curious and wanted to try Mother 3 myself. Coming in at 89, another game, arguably probably one of the best games on the N64, but in my opinion, this is my personal favorite way to play this game. Coming at 89 for me, release on the DS was Super Mario 64 DS, which of course would also allow you to play with Luigi, Yoshi, and Wario, which I've always had a weird interest in the Wario character. I personally always preferred Wario over Waluigi, but that's my own opinion. But arguably in the DS game, I think the best character to play the game with is Luigi. Main reason, because Luigi had his back like spin jump ability. Basically, you can immediately skip over chunks, sections of the game that you don't want to deal with, that are known for being quite annoying. So his ability kind of breaks the game from some perspectives, but I don't see the problem in that personally. But that's just me. To each their own. Next, coming in at number 88 is a game released for the Switch. It is a very interesting indie game with some very beautiful 2D pixel art style and stuff. I think it's one of the best looking pixel RPG type of games I've ever seen. I think the music is great as well. Coming at 88 is the game called To the Moon. Now, if you wanted this game physical, you would have had to have gone it through limited run. Just know that. But you can get it digitally, very cheap a lot of times. But get a chance to check out To the Moon. It's a very interesting indie game. Coming in at number 87, released on the Switch, the remastered version of the game, which I ended up checking out by the recommendation of a few people. Coming in at 87 is called Flashback. A very cool retro style, though it was originally released in the era of the 16-bit wars, but it would get remastered, which I actually appreciate quite a bit, and at least it wasn't just a limited run release, thank goodness. It was a overall, so you can get this game relatively affordable, and I highly recommend checking out Flashback. Coming in at next, at number 86, release for the Game Boy Advance, is, I think, one of the best mid-era Pokemon games by far, personal opinion. For me, coming in at 86, released for the GBA, is Pokemon Emerald, which I think is actually quite a bit of fun, and by far it's better than getting like Ruby or Sapphire, in my opinion. Emerald is the best way to go. Coming in at number 85, released for the original NES, is the original first classic, the original The Legend of Zelda. Comes in at 85. Next, coming in at 84, released for the Nintendo Wii, as well as a few other consoles, but it was the Wii I played. As I believe I've mentioned in the past, one of my personal favorite Wii platformers is arguably Epic Mickey, which comes in at 84. I actually like Epic Mickey a decent amount. To me, it's one of the few games I actually thought used the motion controls very well for the most part, along with also games like Silent Hill, Shattered Memories. Coming in at number 83, released for the Switch, is a HD, technically remaster, but still comes at 83. It's a great, like, you move around in third person, but shooting and stuff is done in the first person. Very unique aspect, very interesting game from the world it's based on, which is mostly puzzle platformer series. For me at 83 is Oddworld Stranger's Wrath. Get a chance to check it out. Coming in at 82, released on 3DS, though it was also released on the N64, this is the version, to me, is the definitive way of playing this game. Though it was originally N64 and I played the somewhat flawed collection it was in for the GameCube. To me, this is the best way to play the game. Coming in at 82 is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D. To me, is by far the best way to play Majora's Mask, hands down, and no one can convince me otherwise. Coming in at 81, released for the original Super Nintendo, is the original classic that is Star Fox. So if you get a chance, seriously, play the original Star Fox, all-time classic. If you have the SNES Classic and you haven't played it, give it a shot. It's actually a pretty good game for its age, even though it's very primitive given its age, and it was made very early in 3D, to be fair. I still, surprisingly, find it fun to play off and on to this day. Coming in at number 80 is a game released, well, the first of selected Wii U games on this list. Coming at number 80, released exclusively for the Wii U, and it still remains Wii U exclusive to this day. For me, coming in at 80 is Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is a great game and I consider a must-have for any Wii U owner, or anyone curious in a Wii U. This, to me, is one of the definitive reasons to get a Wii U or have one, is specifically for this game alone. I haven't played much of the Xenoblade series, but I have put in time in Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I think it's a lot of fun. It's great. If you like mech-style games, this is actually definitely somewhere worth your time. Coming in at 79, another arcade classic from the original NES, a great game, all-time classic, always will be in my opinion. 79 is the original classic Pac-Man. Coming in at 78, released for the Super Nintendo originally, is in my opinion, is probably about my favorite of the Mario Kart series. So I'm not sure what other people's opinions are, but I haven't played a lot of Mario Kart games, to be fair. I've only played this as well as like the N64 game and the DS, and that's it. For me, though, coming in at 78 is Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo. Coming in at 77 for the Nintendo Switch is a great indie 3D platformer that I highly recommend more people check out. It's called A Hat in Time. And it's a game that's more than worth your time just to check the game out, as it's a lot of fun, very colorful, and there's definitely a lot more to the game than meets at first glance. That's one thing I like, is there's a lot more depth than you would think. Coming in at 76, and that's it for this part 1. Coming at 76, released for the Nintendo Wii U, is I think the definitive way to play this game. That is a game done by Ubisoft called Zombies, but this version is called ZombiU, and actually used and implemented the game or gamepad a lot more properly in the way it should be used. Instead, more games did not follow the example of ZombiU. I just hope more people give this game a shot. I consider this another must-try game for the Wii U, and as you can get this game for like $10, it's definitely more than worth the asking price in my opinion. But with that said, I'll see you all next time. Stay safe. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel, and tell me what are some of your personal favorite Nintendo games of all time, or favorite Nintendo console. See you soon.